Harman Smith has a new hot take, fresh off the presses here from just, yesterday? 2 days ago. Yeah, from Monday. This recently came out. The writer of Mystery Inc., I believe it was, or director, can't remember who it was, came out that Velma is actually a lesbian and that her relationship with Shaggy in that show, apparently, was meant to showcase how uncomfortable she was with men. Of course, the whole Velma is a lesbian has been going around probably since the 70s. I remember it was a joke when I was a kid that Velma was a lesbian, mostly because she seemed to be, if anything, asexual. And I think that would have been if you're going to retcon someone's sexuality after the show has been off the air for a decade, maybe it would have been better to retcon her as asexual, because that's kind of the vibe I got off of her looking back, now that I'm aware that that's a thing people can be. That, yeah, she just wasn't interested in sex. Because, now that does have a few of its own issues with it, but let's see what Harman has to say about Velma not being a lesbian. So, Harman, take it away.
So I just read an article this morning about Scooby Doo, one of the producers of the Mystery Incorporated series, revealing a completely unknown fact about one of the characters. Velma apparently
I'm gonna speed him up a little bit. I forgot how slow his ass fucking talks.
in this series is a lesbian, and I just couldn't help but look at this article and just be like, no, because I'm not familiar with this series, right? Like, it came out like long after I was watching the show, but I was casually aware of it, right? Like, I was around people who watched it. I watched a couple of episodes. It's not
It wasn't an anime, so I wasn't interested.
bad. I like the show. I was actually planning on going back and watching it again. This was the one Scooby Doo show I wanted to go back and watch. But the thing I wanted to get at,
Of course, he wanted to go back and watch it, but now he can't because it's just been ruined.
the thing I really wanted to point out when it came to this specific statement about this specific character is that I explicitly remember that Velma spent a significant chunk of the early series lusting after Shaggy's dick, only to lose out to fucking Scooby Doo, of all people. Shaggy would rather hang out with his dog than be with this chick. She's that annoying, and I don't, I don't know. Like, it's kind of.
So you haven't watched Mystery Inc., but now I don't remember any sexual tension. Again, from what I remember watching Scooby Doo as a kid, there was always jokes that she was lusting after Daphne. And who wouldn't? Am I right? So, what are you talking about her lusting after Shaggy? Now, yes, in Mystery Inc., apparently they had a relationship. They were explicitly in a relationship. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she isn't a lesbian. In 2010, you really couldn't do a kid's cartoon with a lesbian main character. You have a hard time doing it in 2020. I mean, we just got done watching a video where a show with a lesbian protagonist was a big part of their marketing. So, and also this is the Dumbledore was actually gay type of marketing, where a piece of media that is long over, nobody nobody cares anymore, and the creator, or one of the creators, one of the people in charge of creating it, comes out and says, oh yeah, this character was actually gay. Okay, why couldn't you put that? And we all know it wouldn't have gotten greenlit. It would have been protested against vehemently in 2010, even if it would have probably done a lot of good and been more popular if they had come out with an explicitly gay character. But can't have that in a kid's cartoon. But what is this about her lusting after Shaggy? Are you ex post factoing this from learning that she was in a relationship with Shaggy in the show? So obviously she would have been lusting after him in the previous shows? No. If anything, the Scooby Doo series that I remember were remarkably non-sexual, non-romantic. It was a group of friends who went around solving mysteries. There was not a lot of, like, as many jokes as we stupid kids made about Daphne and Velma. There weren't a lot of, you know, there wasn't a lot of sexual tension. Now, I'm sure if you go on AO3, you can find any number of stories about all of the Scooby gang getting it on with each other, including Scooby Doo. But that's not what was in the show. That's not explicit in the show. So what the fuck are you talking about, Harman?
Kind of funny in a weird, morbid way, but it is kind of ridiculous. The creators of these shows, or at least these agenda pushers, these kind of propagandists, gay rights activists, like, they really do go against, like, established continuity in order to push a narrative. This is something I've noticed with, like, J.K. Rowling, but this example is arguably worse, because in 50 years, Velma has always been portrayed with an interest in men. She's had, like, several love interests, a male love interest. She's been shipped with Shaggy incessantly. They've always done this. Like, even in the original series, they would, like, be dancing together for fun. Like, there was never any real indication that they were, like, that they were dating, sure, but there was also never any real indications that, like, Velma, she's totally gay. Like, honestly, as an adult, like, it really does feel like the only people who push that narrative.
Outside of the terrible live action movies, when has Velma had a love interest? There might be individual episodes where someone expresses interest in her, but from what I recall, that was almost always someone trying to distract her or the gang in general. What?
Are complete thirsty fucks like Nostalgia Critic who fetishize the lifestyle. It really does feel that way. By the way, it does feel like the biggest supporters are the lesbian community are straight men. It's bizarre. Like, whenever I talk about this kind of stuff,
I dare you to go on Twitter and make that take, Harman. Ooh boy.
on message boards, it's always like straight men who are like talking shit about like the things I have to say and like the things I've noticed and things like that. It's they're very, very defensive of lesbians. They really, really want their Pornhub to be real. Apparently, it's just it's ridiculous. I think it's a beta male thing actually, where they can't be with a woman themselves. They sort of like fetishize this life. They don't want like other men to be with them either, so they just want to create this fantasy.
The obsession with lesbians, as far as I can tell, is twofold. One, it's this idea that lesbians are just waiting for the right man to come along and show them the light, and you will be that man to fuck them into at least bisexuality, so they can still be interested in having threesomes, if not just straight heterosexuality. But also the idea of being able to see chicks having sex and all the titillation of that without worrying about being attracted to the man in the image. You know, like the Ron White sketch, everybody's a little bit gay. No, they're not. You're lying. You ever watch porn? Well, yeah, of course. Well, when you watch porn, you always watch two women together? No, I watch straight porn too. Okay. When you watch porn, do you want the guy to have a tiny, flaccid penis? No, I want him to have a big, throbbing go. Like, that's why I say sexuality is a spectrum. Like, I'm straight as a board. I have little interest in sleeping or being in a romantic relationship with another dude. But when I watch porn or read porn, I don't really watch porn. I don't want to read about some limp dick little fucker. I want to read about someone with a big throbbing cock doing his thing to the women in the porn. Like, that's, as far as I know, that's what most heterosexual men want to see. Because it also lets them put themselves into the position of that big, virile man in that position. That's the whole point.
See, like, oh yeah, we lesbians, two holes are better than one. That's their mindset, and I think that's why so many people enable this, like this whole Velma thing for years now, when it really had no bearing. It had like no canonical basis at all, and now we have this weird situation where a producer is making weird statements about a decade-old show that as a casual viewer, know is complete bullshit. It's really really insane, really really out there. We really need, I don't know, like not to not take this seriously. I don't know, like I personally don't really hold this.
This is stupid. It is a stupid thing to come out with unless there's some new Scooby Doo series in the works where they're going to explore Velma being gay. Then yeah, it is just some producer saying bullshit. But if you actually read the press release, what he says is that she was confused and unsure about her sexuality, so she went with Scooby, or went with Scooby. Woo! Freudian slip there. Went with Shaggy and was uncomfortable in that. And now again, I haven't seen it, but apparently that is somewhat portrayed in the show. And again, jokes about Velma being gay and hot for Daphne are decades old. I wouldn't be shocked if there were whatever the discussion forums of the 70s and 80s were pre-internet, if there weren't talks about about Velma being gay in those, because it's an old meme. And the creators decided, or the producers, I guess, decided to lean into it. Which, I mean, it's a little pandering, yes, but hey, I'll take a little progressive pandering over non-progressive pandering, I guess.
Hold this viewpoint at all. In fact, I kind of disrespect anyone who even does. And if they do change it, it's clearly to please this vocal minority of people on the internet. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't an organic, natural thing. You know what I mean? Like it was people, like with the Harry Potter thing, like people complaining about there not being enough gays, and the creators like
Look at him almost throw up when he says not enough gays. Holy shit. Wow. They offend you that much, Harman?
desperately trying to pretend, oh, there have been gays there all along. Like it's not true. Gayness is not as prevalent as you're led to believe.
It's actually probably more prevalent than you think it is, Harman. Again, sexuality is a spectrum. But there are cave drawings with Velma lesbian jokes. True, Dodge. Yeah, exactly. But this is also someone getting super pissed about a TV show that's 10 years old. Like, I agree. J.K. Rowling's subsequent reveal that Dumbledore was gay was fucking stupid. Like, either write that into the text. And I know that there have been a lot of people who've pointed out that, oh, there's some subtext with him in Grindelwald and blah blah blah. First of all, 19th century, early 20th century male friendships were much closer to, at least the public behavior was much closer to what we in the late 20th and early 21st century would have seen as gay relationships. They could walk around holding hands. They would be very friendly with each other. Not like, modern guy friendships where if you touch, you have to immediately go jerk off to lesbian porn or you become gay. But also, there was nothing in the text of Harry Potter, the novels, to indicate that there was anything other than the regret of having to destroy a friend in the Dumbledore Grindelwald relationship. Like, that was stupid. This is not that. This is basically leaning into something that, some subtext that probably wasn't intentional. Certainly, I would say wasn't intentional in the original series. That people have picked up on and joked about again for decades, but they leaned into it and they decided, yeah, Velma is gay, sure. Again, I think it would be a little more progressive if they had made her asexual, uh, because that was kind of more the vibe I pick up again looking back on it in the past. But you know, baby steps.
It really, really isn't. Even in the gay community, it's kind of bizarre how many of the women involved in the LGBT community are actually completely straight with no interest in women at all. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Like, yeah, the biggest lesbians in the LGBT community are like transgender women, biological men dating biological men. It's or going after lesbians. It's really
What? What kind of turf bullshit is that? Wow, holy hot takes, Batman. The biggest lesbians are transgender women going after other transgender. No, fuck you, dude. There's zero evidence for that. And that's incredibly insulting to lesbians and to trans women. Holy shit.
it's really, really weird if you're familiar with it at all. If you've grown up in like a super liberal community, as I have, and have observed it and learned to, I guess you could say, and learned to detest it. I guess you could say I learned to hate it. You could say it's ridiculous. I don't respect it at all. We really got to. I would suggest parents, people who are viewing cartoons like this, like be very, very cautious. Like be very, very involved with your children. Like talking about like why this is a wrong lifestyle, why people are pushing it. I don't know.
Please explain why it's a wrong lifestyle. Can you do that, Harman? I mean, you're telling parents to do that with their children, so please explain to me why it's a wrong lifestyle to be a lesbian. Holy shit, the homophobia.
Man, I do think you need to like talk about why it's wrong. And like talk about like the common talking points as to like how they try to justify it, because it's not really about love. They always do this, like, oh, they're doing what they want to do, they want to live their lives freely. Not really. Like the appeal is like being a degenerate and being like doing all this
Being a degenerate.
crazy shit that society would otherwise kind of frown upon, right? This unsustainable shit that wouldn't operate, that wouldn't build up a functional society. That's it. You know what I mean? Like we still haven't seen the repercussions of gayness just yet. It's gonna be like another.
Oh no, it's only been an accepted lifestyle for 30 years. We've seen what repercussions? So, a small segment of the population is in relationships which can't be procreative. What does that do? There are any number of straight couples who don't want to have kids, or who can't have kids for one reason or another. What are you talking about, Harman, excuse me. What exactly are you talking about, the harms of the gay lifestyle? Holy shit. You know, I think in a previous video, he went mask off on some other stuff about fascism, and this just drives it in further. This man is a fascist. If you'd like to talk about it, Harman, I'll be happy to host you.
Other 50 years, I would say, if not sooner. You have a lot of dysfunctional people out there, a lot of dysfunctional relationships, and a lot of it is because of how gayness is portrayed in media, like what people expect from their relationships, and things like that, pushing themselves in a completely wrong direction. Like I know so many people who have been emboldened by this kind of media presence to sort of like basically ruin their lives to pursue something that isn't even real. You know what I mean? Like
Homosexuality isn't real. On what evidence do you base that, Harman? Please explain. Because homosexuality is as real as any sexual relationship. And sure, there is some pressure, particularly for younger women, to pretend to be lesbians or whatever for social credit, but that's more due to this patriarchal idea that men like to see women making out and whatever. And yeah, that's pretty gross. But that's not the same thing as society being accepting of gay relationships.
like not really building up to eventually having a family or a career, just having gayness be their defining characteristic. And that's the thing that upsets me about this. Like these people, the Velma is a lesbian crowd. Like these people are defining Velma as a character purely by this idea that she might be a lesbian. Like
What? No, no, no. This is an aspect of her character. And one that has, again, been sort of secretly talked about. Well, not so secretly, talked about for decades. And it's just one part of. And again, this is something which can help by allowing people to see a lesbian as a strong, intelligent woman who's capable of figuring out clues. Velma's role in the Scooby Doo series was either technobabble or putting clues together. Like the 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 Scooby Doo, the Scooby Gang, whatever they call themselves, Mystery Inc., whatever. They all kind of have their roles. Fred is the leader who, you know, goes forward and encourages people to go forward. Daphne is, well, depending on the writer, more like just kind of stumbles into things. Uh, Velma is the brains, literally the brains of the operation, and Shaggy and Scooby are both comic relief as well as um, useful tools for advancing the story because they stumble into something because they're so oblivious or whatever.
even though she's clearly not like she's not like smart, she's not engaging, she's not a good friend to the gang. Like she's not close to these people. Like she's not a good person. She's
What Scooby Doo did you watch? Arguably, Velma is probably one of the better people in the group. Not to say they're all terrible people or anything, again, depending on the writer. But what Scooby Doo did you watch?
she's not someone to look up to. No, she's just a lesbian. Like that's their entire category for her. Like, oh, she's clearly a lesbian. Like
Making lesbian jokes about Velma doesn't mean that's all we think about her character, you fucking homophobic idiot.
I honestly like I think that's completely disrespectful to all the things she's accomplished in her career. Like this is like a 50-year-old cartoon character, right? 1969, right? Debuted the brains of the group, solved countless mysteries, one of the series' mainstays. I believe she's been there more than Fred or Daphne. Actually, Fred and Daphne have not been around nearly as much as you would think. It's mostly been like Shaggy and Scooby in like the 70s and
So the original Scooby Doo was all five of them: Scooby, Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, and Fred. Uh, the only ones that sort of pared the group down that I recall is the new Scooby Doo mysteries, which was Daphne, Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy. So what are you talking about? What are you blathering about?
throughout the 80s and 90s, I think, before like the group really reestablished itself with the traditional method. Um, Probably because like back in the day, Fred and Daphne were kind of boring. Well, Fred especially. It's really really interesting. The character I think is very very beloved and popular for who she is, not for this narrative attached to her. You know what I mean? And in a way, I feel like this lesbian angle is really doing her a disservice. I think it's very very disrespectful to her.
No, because it adds to her character. See, this is the heteronormativity of society. If someone is straight, then that's just the default. That's normal. That's just a normal part of their character. But if you make them gay, then it reduces their character, takes away from them because they're no longer normal. And the fact that someone's sexuality, if it's not straight, is considered an aspect of their character that needs remarked upon, is part of the society we live in and is a problem of that society. But it doesn't detract from her character. If anything, it adds to it. It adds a dimension to her character. And I really hope that in any future Scooby Doo shows or movies they make, that they actually explore this and don't just make it an ex post facto subtext.
To her, it's like, wow, really, this is the thing that makes you like Velma, because just really it's ridiculous. It really is. It truly is ridiculous. Not a fan of this idea at all.
No one cares. Seriously, no one cares if you don't care. I mean, I remember jokes that Fred was gay when I was a kid. Mostly because he wore an ascot and was kind of uptight. But also, again, because of the remarkable sexlessness of that show. So, just because you think that it's that it detracts from her character doesn't mean it does, because it absolutely doesn't. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.